Welcome back, Sebastian here. Today I'm going to be talking about Aston Martin and looking at how they've done through the first half of the 2023 Formula One season. So first, taking a look at the driver head-to-head. Of course, their two drivers this year are Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. So of course, if you're one of the 10 Stroll fans out there, these numbers are going to look pretty ugly. So get ready for it. So points head-to-head. 149 for Alonso, 47 for Stroll. So about 100 points advantage for Alonso. Just looking at the non-sprint points, 142 for Alonso, 41 for Stroll. Race head-to-head where both drivers have finished, 9-1 in favor of Alonso. An average finishing position, 4.6 for Alonso, 8.4 for Stroll. So about a four position difference there, which is quite a large gap in average race finish position. Quali head-to-head, 10-2 in favor of Alonso, with the average qualifying delta being 4.37 seconds. So about 4.5 tenths of a second, so pretty large gap there. And just looking at how they've done, I felt on my average power rankings, their average, Alonso is 2.5, so I feel like he's been one of the best drivers to start for the first half of the 2023 F1 season. Stroll 13.9, which frankly does seem a little high, but that being said, I did think he was decent in the opening races, especially since he was recovering from that wrist injury. Looking at expected points, so using my model for front-running teams, 135.6 points for Alonso, and 101.3 for Stroll. So Alonso actually has a little bit more than expected, which is quite good. And for Stroll, he has less than half of what would be expected based on his starting position. So pretty disappointing overall for Stroll. Looking at Z-score, 4.1, which is the largest gap between teammates in races, I feel. So for Stroll, he really needs to pick it up in the second half of the year if he wants to help Aston Martin in that Constructors' Championship. So next, looking at qualifying gap and how it's evolved over the course of the year. Races 1 through 5, so Bahrain to Miami, 0.582 seconds, which ranked third. So behind Red Bull and Ferrari, but ahead of Mercedes. Races 6 through 12 in the dry, the gap's gone down to 0.434 seconds, but it is fourth, and they are being caught by Alpine and McLaren in qualifying. Now looking at Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship in their recent history, 2020, one of their best years in that factory's history, 195 points, but they were given a 15-point penalty for the whole basically tracing point scandal issue. So that would have been, that would have been 210 points without that penalty, and they would have finished third in the Constructors that year without the penalty as well, I should mention. 2021, 77 points, massive drop-off. They were really hurt by the change to the floor regulations as well, bringing in Sebastian Vettel, replacing Sergio Perez. Maybe a little bit of a downgrade in terms of driver pairing there. And that year they finished 7th in the Constructors' Championship. 2022, I think there were fairly high expectations for them. Maybe not championship contenders, but at least fighting closer to the front. Kind of the position that they're in right now, I think is kind of what we expected from them last year. But pretty disappointing. Of course, their A-spec car was quite poor, one of the slowest cars to start the year. But as the year went along, towards the end of the year, I do remember that they were much closer to the Alpines and the McLarens. Finished with 55 points behind Alfa Romeo, which now seems unthinkable, and 7th in the Constructors. 2023, absolutely massive leap forward to start the season, 196 points, which is almost quadruple what they scored last year through half the season, and of course third in the championship so far this year. But in a very, very tight fight with Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren recently has been entering that fight. So for both Alonso and for Stroll, but particularly for Stroll, given that he is kind of the weak link of the team at the moment, I think. It's going to be really important to continue to get solid points finishes so that you don't fall behind in the Constructors' Championship. And for them, I think they're really going to be aiming for keeping that third place, the third place that they unfortunately were not able to get in 2020. So that's all for my look at Aston Martin at the midway point of the 2023 season. Of course, there's only 2 teams left now, Mercedes and Red Bull. So that's all for Aston Martin. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.